Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blon, and this is Season 2, Episode 7, at least I think, according to my account, of the Sports Betting Podcast to provide you bets from my point of view, my thinking, and grow as a bettor, and love all the support we've been getting so far. If you haven't joined us in the past, this is a sports betting podcast that talks about sports in general, big news in sports, but right now we're focusing on the NFL. And we're heading into week 4. We'll reflect back to week 3 and how we did and some news and notes quickly, and then move on because we need to move on because week 3 absolutely sucked. And thank you for joining. And again, appreciate the support all around the world, including to our partners out in Ontario, various places, Ajax, Whitby, North Bay, Durham, whatever, whoever's tuning in, thank you. Down the U.S., Miami, Illinois, Washington State, a lot of folks in Iowa, and outside in Germany. We've got a few folks downloading in Germany, so thank you very much. And this podcast, we're going to focus on each and every spread going into the week that is the NFL, and this is going to be week 4. But before we do that, we're going to take a little look back, and even before we do that, we're going to talk about our Twitter handle at Overrated Experience. It's Overrated EXPER2. That is Overrated EXPER2. Follow us, tweet us, and join the conversation. We want you aboard, and also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Overrated Experience. All right, let's move on. Big week that we just completed in the NFL. Hopefully your fantasy teams were successful. Hopefully you made some money this weekend. I knew going into this weekend that I felt a little unsure about a lot of these bets. Week 2 on fire was, really giving out winners for week 2, going 10-5-1. This week, not so good. We got a record of 8-9-0, well below the 500 mark, which I'm not happy about. But some news and notes that came out over the weekend and the NFL action was quickly, Minnesota Vikings are in big trouble. They're 0-3. They lost against the Chargers at home. It's an interesting dynamic in Minnesota. They come up in week 4, and what if they go 0-4? Do they really seriously start thinking about trading, let's say, a Kirk Cousins? Do the New York Jets, for example, somehow find a way to fit Kirk Cousins into their lineup? I mean, there's interesting dynamics if the Vikings continue to lose and the trade deadline approaches, but we'll see where it goes because this Viking team was meant to contend in this division. Right now, they're 0-3, and I'm still not counting them out. I mean, the Packers are 2-1. The Detroit Lions are 2-1. There's not really a runaway favorite here, so I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to hang in there a bit. But rough loss, and now they're 0-3. Other news and notes: Denver, 70-20. I mean, 70. It was scored by 50 points, and I said on this podcast that we're going to start to see a slow turn from Coach Sean Payton, eventually throwing Russell Wilson under the bus and anybody else that he can disassociate himself with the previous regime and his coaching, because he doesn't want to come in and be a laughingstock. He was the prized possession in the coaching world and available coaches in the offseason. So expect fireworks there, despite the luck of having the Bears in week 4, and we'll get to that. But 70-20. If you were following that game, Miami was just knocking on the door every 2 minutes. It's wild. That's embarrassing. Now, one game a lot of survivor pools couldn't handle. Jacksonville losing to the Houston Texans. I thought Houston would put up a fight. I thought C.J. Stroud would put up some yards, but I didn't think they would hang 37 points on Jacksonville. Jacksonville, did not look good. Jacksonville could not catch up, and every time they attempted to come back, Houston stuffed it down their throat, and Jacksonville 1-2 in a very, very winnable division. So that's a big loss for them heading into week 4. Baltimore, big loss in overtime. Pressure, they're facing Gardner Minshew of the Colts, and they lose by 3 in overtime. Really didn't show up till the end of the game there and really move that ball down the field. So a lot going on in Baltimore, but they are a franchise that will rebound. I think this is just a blip in the radar. Also, newsworthy. I can't speak enough to Arizona and Dallas. I'm pretty sure, like you and me, all looked at that game and said, okay, all right, Arizona, quick lead there. Let's start chasing. We lost some money at 1 o'clock. Let's start unloading as the game moves on. Dallas is going to come back. And then red zone opportunity winds up at a field goal or interception or another failure to get in the end zone. And it reminds me that, the 2 weeks of hype of the Dallas Cowboys, the people are already asking, this is a Super Bowl team, et cetera, et cetera. This is the same story every year with the Dallas Cowboys. They look red hot and invincible and like a powerhouse on both sides of the ball. And then suddenly they have a clunker. Last year, at home game against Denver, they got blown out. And that came out of nowhere. And this is another game that came out of nowhere. Joshua Dobbs, hanging up, like almost 200 yards on this team. It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I don't know what the Cowboys were doing. I don't know how they prepared for this game. 12.5-point underdog, and they get beaten outright. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. The Cowboys are who we thought they were, and the same old story is going to happen. They're going to get another wave of momentum. They're going to hit the playoffs, maybe with a home game, but wind up on the road in a San Francisco or Philadelphia and asking questions of why Dak Prescott threw 2 interceptions or this or that. This team is a fraud. And ride them when they're hot in the season. But if you have any Super Bowl tickets, any futures, tear them up now. Because they're a fraud and they are what they are. And until they, I had hopes that Dak Prescott and team would move this along, but it's the same old story and it's not going to change. So give up your futures now, tear them up, burn them up. It's over. Don't put yourself through that. And the Pittsburgh, Las Vegas Sunday nighter, maybe the dumbest coaching decision I have seen in a while. Josh McDaniels. He's coaching this team, play calling with Jimmy G. They're making a charge. They're down by 16 points. They score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion down by 8. They now get into the red zone again with multiple timeouts left, and they kick a field goal. Oh, no. Flag. Steelers. I think it was offside or converging on the center, which you can't do. Back in the red zone. And with just over 2 minutes left, the same situation comes up, 4th and 4 within 10 yards of the end zone, like inside the 10. And the decision is they kick a field goal. They kick a fucking field goal. Maybe the worst coaching decision. I don't know what math. Is there new math that I'm not aware of? Because my understanding is that even if they kick the field goal, they need a touchdown, right? They're down by 5 points. And the story is they kick it off. Pittsburgh gets a couple first downs. Game's over. Instead of, putting the ball up, potential flag, 1st and goal. You know what? Maybe you stuff them. Maybe they stuff you. And you still have pinned Pittsburgh deep, and you find yourself in the same scenario anyway. So Josh McDaniels, he's got to be held accountable for that. Maybe one of the worst coaching decisions ever. And I think it just proves that, history, NFL is very funny like this. Very few examples of players, coaches that, come to a situation where they have a chance to prove themselves that they're not who we think they are. I love the Dallas Cowboys, and he's the same coach that was in Denver. Maybe he's a hell of an offensive coordinator, but he isn't a head coach. And the NFL has a lot of stories on that. We got to keep that in mind when we're betting, especially for futures, things like that, that pretty much what we see on a week-to-week basis is most likely what we're going to get on a season-to-season basis. I love Zach Wilson, same piece of crap quarterback that we saw last year. There's no hope for him, so it's time to end that experiment. Cowboys have a ceiling. Josh McDaniels is not a good coach. And there's a few other stories I can't think of right now, but it's not going to change. So keep it in mind and don't overreact week by week. Look at the longer sample and you'll probably see the future right in front of you. So that's week 3 of the NFL, which is horrible. So now our overall record after a 6-9-0 game, and I'll tell you how bad it was. I even forgot to make a pick on the Cleveland-Tennessee game, so I only had 15 games this week. And now our overall record is 47 games and 24 wins, 22 losses, and 1 push. We're 2 games over 500. Not acceptable. We got to get better in week 4, and I'm hoping we do that this week starting tonight. All right? So let's get started on week 4 of the NFL. And I'm gonna suggest that we all be very patient. Be very, very patient when it comes to your bankroll. It's a long season, even though it goes by super fast. There's only a two-day gap until Thursday from Monday, where we should be able to get back on the saddle and grind away. It's a grind. So that's what the Overrated Experience is all about. It's the real life grinding square bettor out there that struggles and has successes week over week like I do. So welcome to the party. So heading into week 4, we got an interesting card this week. And it starts off with a great Thursday nighter. We have the Detroit Lions in Green Bay as a 1.5 favorite on the road. And division rivals, these games are usually pretty wild. Usually an Aaron Rodgers big play. But guess what? He's not there anymore, right? Jordan Love's had a successful start to his career. I mean, the Green Bay Packers squeaked by the New Orleans Saints at home last week, big fourth quarter. And they take on a Detroit team that bounced back against Atlanta. And pretty much no issues with Atlanta here. So what I'm looking at is a Detroit team that I think had their hiccup against Seattle. I think they obviously are going to be prepared to come to Green Bay. And I think Detroit at this stage is maybe a step ahead of Green Bay at this point. And I think the 1.5 is a bargain. I think Detroit has enough weapons. I just hope they realize that they are talented enough where it's okay to punt sometimes and play field position with your defense instead of trying to go for all these 4th and 2s and 1s and sneaky fake kicks, etc. So I hope Dan Campbell is realizing you got to play the situation. You can pull out those tricks sometimes, but all the time is just overkill, and you might be putting your team a step back instead of a step forward. So that's what I'm hoping I don't see. Detroit plays their game, field position, run the ball, jerk off, he's got 2 interceptions in 2 games, which is abnormal. Get the ball in the weapons, the high-priced weapons that they have, and they should be fine against Green Bay, which, if you let them hang around and keep it a field goal game, watch out, because they will come back and bite you. So I like Detroit in this game, but if they let Green Bay hang around, there might be lights out for the Lions. But I'll take Detroit 1.5 on Thursday Night Football. Now we go to the Sunday card, and I love it because we have the first London game, and that is the Atlanta Falcons travel to London to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's a 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are pretty much a home game here, but they are a 3-point favorite, and I do like the Jags at 3 points here. I think Atlanta getting by Green Bay was kind of a fluke, and their 1-2 I think reflects what we get out of this Atlanta team, and I don't think Desmond Ritter's ready to go yet. I think they got to keep giving him reps to improve for the Atlanta Falcons, and I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will be more. They do this trip every year pretty much. I think it's, pretty much every year. So I think they'll be better suited to play this game on Sunday morning, our time, of course, and the preparation that takes place overseas. And I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars do cover that -3. There's no way they can come out with a stinker. I think the Houston Texan game was their wake-up call. That's where they were sleeping. And I think they'll take care of it this week. So Atlanta, sorry, but Jacksonville -3. Baltimore Ravens looking to rebound after a loss in overtime to the Indianapolis Colts. Head into Cleveland. Now, Cleveland is 2-1, and they're a 2.5-point favorite here. However, I still think this being a divisional game, I think Baltimore has got more. I do think that the coaching staff in Baltimore, Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the NFL. They'll get this team prepared. This will be a tight game. I think they will be able to, slow down Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper, man, this guy doesn't age. He's a great receiver, and boy, could the Cowboys use him now. But I absolutely like the Baltimore Ravens, and they're plus 120. So even though, this podcast is the spread, plus I would take Baltimore all day and see what happens. I think there's good value there. Lamar Jackson recovers. Also, Cincinnati Bengals head into Tennessee. Now, this is a funny one to me. I don't know if you watched that Monday Nighter. The Cincinnati Bengals, for the most part, struggled to move the ball. They didn't struggle when they got the ball in Chase's hands, the wide receiver, Jamar Chase. He's a dominant receiver, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Now, Burrow is a little banged up. He has no mobility, and I think he's vulnerable. And he's one hit away from being sidelined, and they're in trouble. So if you look at Cincinnati heading to Tennessee, which Tennessee I'm not too high on, obviously. I think the experiment with Tannehill's pretty much run its course. However, I think this was going to be a weird one. I think they're going to struggle into Tennessee. And you know what? Take Tennessee for the upset here. So even though minus 2.5 point favorite are the Bengals, I'm going to go with Tennessee. Now here's the game of no wins, and that is the Denver Broncos are 3.5 point favorites into Chicago. Now maybe I'll get burned again. Maybe I won't. On a game where I look at this obviously has to favor the Denver Broncos. I mean, we're talking about two teams who look worse. Even giving up 70 points, I still have more faith in the Denver Broncos to comfortably win in Chicago. So I'm going to take the Broncos 3.5. But I'm telling you, if this turns out to be a Chicago win, like I said earlier, the wheels are going to absolutely fall off in Denver. There's absolutely going to be like a Netflix drama here, because it's going to be everybody pointing fingers at everybody. It's going to be disgusting. Chargers head into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Colts are a 1.5 favorite. I do not know the status of Richardson, rookie quarterback. Gardner Minshew obviously showed he can handle it. I didn't think he would at least go the distance in Baltimore, which he did. Chargers coming off a big win in Minnesota. But I do think that the Colts get the job done. I think at home, I think the Chargers, I think they got big holes. I think the Colts will grind it out, and I think they'll control the clock. And that 1.5 points, I think it's probably a field goal game. And I like the Colts as favorites to cover that spread. Miami and Buffalo, biggest game at 1 o'clock, should be a Sunday nighter. Miami, weather's not going to be an issue at this time of year, which is not the advantage for Buffalo. However, I'll say this, is that Miami's on fire right now, 3-0. But Buffalo's at home, and they're a minus 3 point favorite. I'm going to take the Bills. I don't think Tua is going to have a field day like he's had the last few weeks. I think Buffalo has seen enough of them to affect him and the other weapons. And, with Josh Allen, there's, Stephon Diggs and guys out there on the team that are weapons for them. I think they'll put up points as well, but I got to see Buffalo taking care of business here. So Buffalo minus 3, I like it. All right, Minnesota, Carolina, minus 3.5 points. I mean, Andy Dalton was in for Carolina. We don't know the status of Bryce Young, and if Andy Dalton's taking care of business again, he'll move the ball. He'll put up some points, but I got to believe that the Minnesota Vikings take care of business and take advantage in Carolina. Even though it's a minus 3.5, I'm going to put my money on Minnesota here. They're not going 0-4, right? Come on. They got too many weapons. They can outscore the Carolina Panthers. I don't think they can stop anybody. The Minnesota defense is absolutely trash. But I don't think the Carolina Panthers can keep up in scoring. And I don't think they can stop them enough where Minnesota doesn't comfortably win here. Take Minnesota minus 3.5. The Pittsburgh Steelers minus 3 points heading to Houston. Now, if you watch the Steelers, Kenny Pickett is up and down to me. I don't know what we're getting with Kenny Pickett. I mean, they've really won on some pretty good, some clutch throws by Kenny Pickett, but a lot of running scheme with Najee Harris and Warren in the backfield. And I think overall, the Steelers are, a top-notch organization, and they come up with a game plan where they can beat you from different angles. Their defense can make things happen. C.J. Stroud has been impressive for the Houston Texans. He's put up a lot of yards in his games, and I'll be looking at on the props betting later this week and look at his yards and what's up there, because if it's too low, we're hammering it. However, maybe not, because the Pittsburgh Steelers and TJ Watt might keep them under control. Mika Fitzpatrick, those guys are difference makers. So I like the Steelers at -3, and the Colts come down. They had their win. They had their big win in Jacksonville, and I don't think we see that performance heading into Week 4. All right, so we have now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just came off a loss and pretty much got handled by the Philadelphia Eagles. Could not run the ball at all. Baker Mayfield was okay, but just could not get anything going. So is that the Eagles, or is that the real-life Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we're seeing? And then they're in New Orleans. New Orleans is going to have Jameis Winston, and they're a -3.5, 3-point favorite. Winston's a good guy to have if Derek Carr's not going to be there. But for some reason, I think the time is right for Tampa to take advantage of the situation, divisional matchup. Jameis Winston's kind of all over the place. I'm gonna see Tampa pulls out the win here. So I'm taking Tampa, even though they're spotted at 3 points. Washington, Philadelphia. Philadelphia 8.5-point favorites. How can I possibly take Washington here? Well, guess what I am. Because they're 8.5-point underdogs, divisional matchup. I think their defense is pretty solid. Okay, they got torched, obviously, by Buffalo. But I think, Philadelphia's been relying on the run game. And I think this is the week where Washington steps up and makes Jalen Hurts beat them, which he very well could. But I think they keep it within 8. I think Philadelphia wins, but I think this game is closer than we think. Washington knocked off Philly last year on the road. Just because it's a divisional matchup, I think 8.5 is way too high. But wow, the running game. Swift. I'm trying to think, why did the Lions not do everything they could to sign him? Because he's spectacular in the backfield. The O-line for Philadelphia is amazing. But I do think as a divisional matchup, like I said, Washington, make sure they cover the spread. All right, so we also have, then, moving on, we got the Las Vegas Raiders and Josh Dumbfuck McDaniels taking on the Chargers. The Chargers at -6. All right, so the Chargers are -6, or have 6-point favorites. And I don't have any faith in the Raiders. I mean, they beat Denver in week 1, and what does that tell you? That's a team that lost by 50 points this week. I think the Raiders are going nowhere. Again, I think Jimmy G is one hit away from being done, and I can't see it happening. So give me Chargers -50, but I'm just kidding. -6 to the Chargers. And I'm going to tell you how much of a dumb dipshit I am and how many mistakes a podcaster can make. And even though I've done many of these so far, I shouldn't be making these mistakes. I'm going to circle back because I was talking as the Colts were playing the Chargers, because I put LAC beside, like an idiot, beside the Colts matchup. So let me pretend that didn't happen. I'm not going to edit it out because this is real life, okay? So I circle back and I look at the Colts as a 1.5 favorite. I even have a better argument why the Colts are a better team, okay? And why they're going to win this game. Because if you watch the Rams yesterday, it's a matter of time before they get blasted. Matthew Stafford, yes, he's a Super Bowl champion. But has there not been a team? Have we not forgotten? Have you not said, oh yeah, the Rams won the Super Bowl 2 years ago? Nobody remembers that. All right? I know you remember it, but you don't really, it doesn't stand out. And obviously Stafford was injured most of last year. However, if you watch the game on Monday night, he's got a rocket of an arm, no question about that. When he's got protection and he can find his first 1 or 2 reads quickly, he can find them. But when he's sitting there, he doesn't move at all. And he's waiting so long and trying to find every check down possible. And then he can't get out of trouble. He's a statue back there. And guess what? He gets hit hard. He gets hit very hard. He's a crash test dummy out there. He is glass. I know he's healthy now, but those are hits. He's going to land on his shoulder. He's going to have an ankle twisted. He has no mobility in the pocket that I see. like a guy like Tom Brady, slow as hell, knew how to maneuver around a pocket to find space. Stafford sits back there, give him credit for being tough hanging onto the ball, but holy shit, he takes a hit. Watch how many times he gets sacked, and sacked hard. He's done after. I don't think he's making it past, the midway point of the season. So I don't like what I'm seeing with the Rams. I mean, obviously Aaron Donald is amazing on the defensive side, but offensively, I find they have a tough time getting things going unless he can find his first two reads. So I like the Colts. I like the Colts probably comfortably in that game. And again, dipshit me was thinking it was the Chargers for a second. And you've seen it. Mistakes here on the podcast. So let's go back and pretend that didn't happen. So we're moving on to Arizona, San Francisco. San Fran is a minus 14 favorite. Minus 14. Arizona just came off a big win at home against the Dallas Cowboys. But guess what San Francisco is? They're not the Dallas Cowboys. I don't see Arizona passing double digits here. Maybe they get to 10. But the 49ers are relentless. They will destroy you and then go back and make sure you're done, wiped out, and run you back over. Until the clock goes, they'll keep punching. Okay? I don't see them having mercy on the Cardinals. In this game, I don't think Joshua Dobbs lasts. I don't think they last long at all. I think the 49ers crush them. So 14, I'm comfortable with that. Now the Dallas Cowboys take on the New England Patriots, and I'm him and Han. You know what I mean? Thinking, Patriots. You know what I mean? Like Patriots, knock off the Jets, big shock there. Dallas Cowboys struggle, blow a game against Arizona. But what would a Dallas Cowboy season be if they didn't look like $1 million the week after they lost to a team they shouldn't even been close to losing to? So guess what? I'm going to take the Cowboys comfortably to knock off the New England Patriots, and they'll cover the spread 6.5. Just to piss me off because I got crushed by them earlier. All right. So now we're going to talk about the next game, which is the Jets hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Imagine that. You just lost Aaron Rodgers. You lost 2 straight. And now you got the Chiefs coming in. What do you think I like in this game? I don't even believe why the Chiefs are only 9.5 points. Fuck yeah, take the Chiefs. And take it now, because that spread's going to go up. Don't wait. I'll hold. Did you put the bet through? Because it's not going to stay at 9.5. I mean, I've heard that the Jets have signed Trevor Siemian to come in. I mean, they're desperate right now. But they have to bring in somebody. Trevor Siemian is probably going to be starting after the bye week. I can't remember what the Jets' bye week is, but that's going to happen. Zach Wilson's going to get lit up. My bet is he throws a touchdown. Wow. But Mahomes throws like 5. All right? With Kelsey and Taylor Swift going, like the highlight. First of all, who cares? Like, good for them. But who gives a shit about that story? It's, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But, hey, that's the news. So, Kansas City, 9.5. Bet it now. Again, I'll hold. All right, did you get it in there? Good. And then we got the Monday Nighter. We have Seattle Seahawks underdogs heading in New York to take on the Giants. Giants are 1.5 point favorites. Honestly, I mean, the Giants came back against Arizona, but what do the Giants really got going on? I mean, Seattle is up and down. It's not like I'm locked into Seattle to guarantee victory here. But the value's got to be on Seattle. They got a lot more going on than the Giants do. And without Barkley, I don't trust this Giants team. I trust the Seattle Seahawks more. Geno Smith has got a lot more weapons than the Giants do. Okay? Daniel Jones does. So let's go Seattle, underdog, upset special. And that's it. That's all I got. I mean, you should still be betting the Kansas City Chiefs at 9.5 over the Jets as I speak. But again, the pleasure was all yours. We're going to end it. We'll talk soon and talk props and undies over in undies. So we'll talk soon. Enjoy the podcast. And let's grind it out together. All right? Have a good one. Bye-bye.